to hear that.
Yep.
I think we are live, Andy.
Okay, Chris. Good morning, Chris. Chris, can you hear me? I saw your face there.
I can. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. And yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much.
Okay, so is the gang all here? Looks like it.
Well, we definitely have a quorum.
Okay, and we have 9 o'clock as well, I think, don't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so officially 9 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. A couple of announcements to make. Paul McNamara, City of Escondido, has now been promoted, I guess you'd call it, to the regular member. And Christy Becker, City of Solana Beach, is now an alternate. Welcome aboard, Christy.
Thank you.
Could you give us a brief bio about yourself?
Sure. So I was elected in 2018. Before that, I've served on the Parks and Rec and the Climate Action Commission. And prior to that, I was a retired attorney and raising 3 kids. And they're big now, but still a lot of work. Sorry, I'm just getting a phone call. Decline that so I can see the screen. And that's about it so far. That's about all I can think of offhand.
Well, welcome aboard. I understand in Solana Beach, you kind of have an apprentice program where you serve in a capacity for a couple of years and then step up to mayor. Is that correct?
You know, it used to be that way. We just elected our mayor this time. We got the notice about districting, so we've formed districts. I was elected at large, but the next election will elect by districts. But we have elected a mayor for 4 years, Lisa Hebner. So I'm deputy mayor right now. I would have rotated in next year, but I'm happy to have Lisa as mayor. So.
Okay. Well, once again, congratulations. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning?
I would be happy to. Hand over heart, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, we elect in coordination, we made up an effort. So, okay. So with that, I go back to the roll call, please, Tammy.
Yes, good morning. Commissioner Desmond?
Here.
Commissioner Willis?
Here.
Commissioner Salas? Is absent. Commissioner McNamara?
Here.
Commissioner Kate? Commissioner Kate?
Chris.
Here.
Commissioner
Here.
McKenzie? Commissioner McKenzie?
We can see you now, Kate.
Commissioner Vanderlyn?
Present.
Commissioner Vargas? No, she's running late. And Commissioner Anderson? Absent. Commissioner Von Wilpert is absent. Commissioner Mathis?
Present.
Commissioner Becker?
Present?
We have 6 present with a virtual quorum.
So we have a quorum then. Okay.
Actually,
Did you call Joe?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And Chair, this is Keen. It looks like Commissioner Becker's not only her first meeting, but until Commissioner Salas attends, or if she does, Commissioner Becker will be voting as the alternate city member.
Okay. Well, big responsibility right off the bat there, Christy.
Oh, you guys, pledge and everything, and
Yeah. We'll make it easy on you after this, okay?
jeez.
All right, before we get into the agenda, I want to draw your attention to the Cliff Notes that Keen's provides. Comes out with the agenda. I don't know, a 500 and some page agenda, I think, at least 517, I think there may be more. I find this Cliff Notes very helpful. It kind of gives you a capsulization of each of the items on the agenda. It also gives you an idea about how long he thinks the meeting will go and how intense it might be. So I encourage you to read that. Did anyone read all the 500 and some pages of the agenda?
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay, Barry, you're the only one that tired eyes reading it all, but.
Yeah,
rest
I
of-
read it. I read it all day yesterday, Andy. So,
Oh, I'm sorry, Drew.
and I'm assuming all of my commissioners read the whole thing.
Well,
Absolutely.
anyway, take a look at the Cliff Notes. It might be helpful for those who don't quite get all the way through it. So with that said, go to the agenda review. Keen?
Thank you, Chair, and formally good morning, Commissioners. Keen Simons, your Executive Officer. So we don't have any changes to the agenda itself, at least relative to the amended version that we did go ahead and send out on Thursday and post to the website, an amended version that simply added one more item to your business calendar, 7C, and that's a discussion on our reopening plan. But other than that, we're good to go on the agenda. I do just want to note again for the record in this virtual format that the commission can and will take public comments as we go through the items, either from those who have pre-registered to speak, and you see a few of them up on the screen already, or we are certainly able to take in real-time comments by way of email. And for those who are watching us on our live stream, if you are interested or you think you might be interested in sending us an email comment in real time, please take a look at the instructions that Tammy has on our agenda face sheet, and then also it's available at the Lafco homepage as well. So those comments said, we are good to go, Chair.
Okay, and Drew, I don't know whether you're still on or not, but thanks for all your work to put all this together. Kind of a difficult thing, I think, to balance all this stuff. Appreciate that. Okay, so public comment. Tammy, do we have listed speakers?
Yes, Chair, we have one registered speaker, and her name is Claire Collins.
Okay, so is there anyone else that wants to speak to us this morning under public comment? Okay, if not, Claire, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, members of the Commission. My name is Claire Collins, and I'm outside counsel for the San Diego County Water Authority. I am sure we would all agree that Lafco must act fairly and impartially as to pending applications. As you know, there are pending applications for the Rainbow and Fallbrook water districts to detach from the Water Authority. I'd like to address an unfortunate issue, which, like many issues in today's world, stems from social media. On May 12th, Lafco posted on Twitter a tweet by a third party that made inflammatory claims from Rainbow and Fallbrook's public relations campaign materials. That subtweet included the statement, and I quote, "Over the past decade, Fallbrook and Rainbow water customers have overpaid nearly $50 million to the Water Authority." This is an incorrect claim by Rainbow and Fallbrook that Lafco's Twitter page broadcast to the public. The subtweet also included a link to a Voice of San Diego opinion piece written by the presidents of both of those agencies supporting detachment. This clearly gives the impression that Lafco supports Rainbow and Fallbrook's contentions. After seeing the tweet, we called Lafco counsel discreetly at 10 a.m. and asked Lafco to take down the tweet. 5 hours later, we had not received a response, and the tweet had not been taken down. We sent a letter to the chair and the vice chair requesting that the tweet be removed and requesting an explanation of how that tweet came to be posted by Lafco. Instead of removing this tweet to preserve impartiality, Lafco staff appeared to double down and created a thread of 5 new tweets to explain why Lafco had retweeted the opinion piece in the first place, again calling attention to the false PR information. The public will clearly see the initial tweet and its successors as an endorsement of Rainbow and Fallbrook's false claims related to their request to detach. We, of course, have no objection to Lafco posting information about its public meetings or its processes or its reports. But unless there's a fair and balanced presentation of both sides of the current arguments that are before Lafco, we believe that posting only one side of the dispute gives the impression of bias. And we would ask again that the tweet be taken down and that adversarial claims not be posted by Lafco as if they are positions of the agency. That concludes my public comment at this time. However, I do have a separate public comment on item 7A. Thank you.
Okay, well, We'll deal with that in 7A then. Any questions for Claire this morning? Clarification is necessary? No comment, commissioners? Okay, Claire, thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, anything else then? No other public comments?
Let us check in with Erica to see if we have any email submittals. What say you, Erica?
Good morning. So far, I have not received any public comments or live email comments.
Okay, and then Chair, I also see that Commissioner Salas has joined us, so Commissioner Becker will return to the alternate non-voting role.
Hello?
Yes, I was having technical difficulties, so I can't connect with my computer, so I'm on my phone this morning.
Well, great to have you here, Mary. Thank you.
Morning. Good morning.
Thank you.
And Christy, you just as quick as you got put up, you got brought back to the bench.
I gotcha.
So you're going to be a busy person back and forth. Okay. All right. So nothing else on the public? I'm sorry. Who was it? No.
Desmond.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, Andy. See, I just want to, based on our public speaker's comment, that, we at Lafco take the utmost care going forwards, particularly with social media, that we do not put out anything that could be potentially perceived as taking a position before us. And I know I saw the tweets, and I know that we retweeted out some clarifications, but I just think we need to exercise extreme caution, particularly in every issue we deal with is sensitive, that we double check, triple check that we do not put out anything that might even be perceived as a potential position. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any other comments regarding that issue? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Go to consent items number 5. Each of those are listed there, and they're all items that could be taken under consent under one vote, or they could be pulled and voted on separately. What's your pleasure, Commission?
I'd like to I have a couple questions on 5C.
Okay,
Just pull 5C.
so we'll pull it for discussion. Okay. All right, anything else on the other items listed there? That would be 5A through I, pulling item C. Is that correct?
I'll move
Yes.
to approve the consent calendar minus item 5C, the proposed Chinese Bible church change of organization.
I second that.
Okay. Second by Barry, motion by Joe. Any discussion on the item? Hearing none, seeing none. A roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Commissioner Desmond,
Aye.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Aye.
Commissioner McManus,
Aye.
Commissioner Kate,
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Aye.
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas, absent. So I have 7 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we have 2 public hearing items. Keen, do you have a presentation for us?
Well, we do have item 5C to go back to.
Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Back to 5C. Barry?
Yes, I just had, there was quite a few affected local agencies involved, Keen. There were no concerns whatsoever with this change and what's being proposed.
Let me, I believe that is the case, but let me ask our project manager on that, Priscilla Allen, to confirm if we had heard from any of the affected agencies. And I also know. No, very good. And just for the record, I do know we have a representative, Ron Harper, also in attendance if there were any questions of him, Commissioner Willis. But to your question, as Priscilla just said, no concerns.
Okay, and also, I guess, because since this is Rancho Santa Fe CSD, is this Dudek and Company that oversees this management and then the transition here? I was just wanted to clarify. Okay. Ron, what's your position there?
I am the construction manager for the
Oh,
Chinese
okay.
Bible Church.
Oh, okay, very good. And what kind of, are there any challenges at all in terms of the infrastructure, moving it over? Or I was just curious.
There is, it's a new, it's an existing home, and the septic system is being removed, and then we're connecting into the existing sewer system north on 4G Road. And we may need a pump system as part of that to get from the furthest distance of the church buildings.
Well, obviously, I'm sure you've done quite a bit of research on it. Dudek and Company is very, very competent, as we all know. I just wanted to ask a couple quick questions about, the infrastructure. And so just as a follow-up, how long will that take to get that moved over? Is that quite an ordeal?
Well, we're hoping, we have our grading plan submitted already to the county of San Diego. And we're hoping in a few months to get that approved. And then we don't see it as a huge item. It's just, more expensive than just having it flow gravity. But it should be done in a few months. So we would hope if everything went well, we'd have it done within a year or less from now.
Okay.
Any other questions, Barry?
No, I don't.
No?
I'll make a motion that we approve 5C.
I have a question that.
Sorry.
You have a second for this?
I didn't have a question until Barry asked him. On our visuals, on our maps, since when we get a lot of these projects that are just connecting to sewer, I think it'd be advantageous if we could see where the existing sewer line is. Is this just 100 feet away, or is it 5,000 feet away? Just for information purposes.
Okay, this is for future file then, Joe?
Pardon?
For future?
Yeah, for future.
Okay.
Show where the existing sewer line is, or the existing water line, whatever, happens to be the project of the day.
Okay, thank you. Ron, did you have anything else to add here this morning?
Yes, I believe it's in the 200 to 400 feet north on the road, 4G Road. So it's not in the thousands, it's in the hundreds of feet to the connection.
Ron, thanks for making yourself available. I will make a motion to go with the proposed recommendation on 5C.
Appreciate that. Appreciate the commissioners hearing this and the staff assistance getting this prepared.
I'll second the motion.
There's a second. All right, any more discussion on item 5C? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, please, Tammy.
Commissioner Vargas? I'm not sure if she came. She's absent. Commissioner Vanderlin?
Yes.
Commissioner Kate?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner McNamara?
Yes.
Commissioner Salas? Commissioner Salas?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
Commissioner Desmond?
Aye.
We have 7 in favor, 0 opposed, with 1 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
You're
Okay, now public hearings, Keen.
Thank you, Chair. So we have 2 public hearings, and they're both Poway centric. The first one, 6A, is a final municipal service review that Priscilla Allen will actually do the bulk of the presentation. But just for my own benefit, I wanted to offer up a few opening comments. And just like I did when this item first came to the commission back in April, I wanted to highlight, because it is pertinent, the fact that this is the first time your current staff is bringing you a municipal service review that includes a city, in this case, the city of Poway. And that means a couple of things. One is it certainly has expanded the scope and scale of the analysis that we've been bringing to the commission in these reports over the last few years, because prior to today, they've all been special district oriented. And that means we're diving into topics of pertinence like community development, housing, which are certainly integral municipal services. And then also, Commission, keep in mind that should you proceed to go forward today with the recommended actions, which again, Priscilla will detail in a bit, we're going to create now the template of record, if you will. So for those watching and for the city members, we'll use this document as kind of the guide in going forward, because certainly there are going to be a number of cities that we're going to be looking at sooner than later. So with that said, I'm going to ask Priscilla to highlight the key takeaways and then go over the recommended actions.
Okay, thank you. Priscilla?
Yes, thank you so much. So we do have a presentation for you today. If you could pop that up on the screen for us all, please. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Priscilla Allen, analyst with San Diego Lafco. So today I'm going to be presenting the Municipal Service Review on the Poway region. This is our final report summary. And so before the commission is the MSR of the Poway region, which focuses on the principal local governmental agency in the area under Lafco oversight, the city of Poway. The item returns substantially intact from the draft, which I presented back in April, which was subsequently circulated for public review. The process generated some questions, but no formal comments. And so proceeding forward today with the final MSR and related actions will allow you, the commission, to A, satisfy the check-in requirement under statute to independently evaluate the level, range, adequacy of municipal services relative to the community needs as you, the commission, see fit for the next 5 years, and B, to concurrently allow for Lafco to go forward with a separately required sphere update, which is up next on the agenda today. So this said, and before asking the commission to formally sign off on the MSR, I'd like to quickly recap some of the key conclusions and recommendations that were introduced in the draft back in April, and which I'd like to remain in the final version today. So you see 8 key themes or things that we learned, and those are shown on the screen, and I'll be highlighting 5 of those. So 1, this is an introductory municipal service review, and the review represents the first time, as Keen said, that San Diego Lafco has produced a check-in for the region and the city. And it signifies, among other things, that we've created this baseline document that we can go back and build upon, where we can go forward in tracking key growth, service, and fiscal trends through the Lafco lens. We're also revisiting a successful reorganization. It confirms that the commission got it right in 1980, where the commission greenlighted one of the more significant set of jurisdictional changes in San Diego County over the last 4 years. And in doing so, it brought together 5 limited serving special districts and into 1 multi-serving agency. Through our assessment, we also saw that the city of Poway has been strategic in protecting against unplanned and or unwanted outside growth by purchasing nearly 1/3 of its incorporated boundary and dedicating it to open space. And they've remained true to that tagline of city in the country. And as an end result, they've created this municipal green belt, again, where they're directly controlled by the city. And it's unique in that it's not replicated in any of the other 17 cities in San Diego County. As part of our assessment, we also looked at housing and the impact it has on orderly growth. And relatively speaking, there has been a significant underperformance in housing construction in the city of Poway, with the increase in new housing units since 2010 falling 200% below the countywide average. And among other impacts means that housing costs in Poway are significantly higher than most of the rest of San Diego County. And lastly, as we looked at the municipal service capacities, Lafco's macro assessment of Poway's core urban services, fire, water, wastewater, community development, and parks and recreation, show that they have an overall capacity to meet current and projected demands over the next 5 years. And so we didn't identify any red flags. So those were some of the main takeaways from the MSR. And so I'd like to move on to recapping some of our key recommendations, and those will be shown on the next 2 slides. But I'm going to highlight 3, and those are also bolded on the screen for you. So number 1, San Diego Lafco believes that City of Poway should update its general plan. The world has changed a lot since 1991, and a general plan update would appropriately help in syncing the community needs and community goals to this new world, and could even start with developing a climate action plan. 2, we'd like to highlight that City of Poway should revisit its land use policies and procedures. The goal with this should be for the City of Poway to reverse its recent course, where the demand for housing, and especially affordable housing, is far exceeding their supply. And lastly, and this is also for us, Lafco should revisit fire protection as part of a larger regional countywide study, and perhaps there are some viable service alternatives that Poway may want to consider now with the creation of San Diego Fire Protection District. And so those were some of the key recommendations as part of the MSR. And so today, Commission, is an opportunity to ensure that you're good with the approach as well as the content of the final MSR before considering a recommendation from staff to formally receive and file. In addition to our recommendation for the Commission to adopt a draft resolution, making the required determinations under statute. After our first draft review, where we presented the MSR, we did receive a letter from the city manager who was generally supportive of the document. And this letter was presented to you back in April, but is also a part of the final MSR as part of an appendix. And so with that, Commission, I'm going to end the presentation. Thank you so much. I'm now going to turn it back to Keen, and I'll be ready to answer any questions.
Thank you, Priscilla. So one other thing I want to note is getting you this report, Commission, took an interesting route. It started right before COVID, and then unrelated to that, we had some staffing changes. So Priscilla is the 3rd project manager on our end to take on this study, and I think it's shown that Priscilla is certainly capable of tying loose ends together and bringing you a very good document. And then separately, I do want to extend our appreciation to the City of Poway. And I know we have Craig Ruiz on the Zoom call today because they too had a role with our unplanned stops and goes along the way. So I certainly appreciate their patience with Lafco staff. So, Chair, this item is a public hearing. As Priscilla mentioned, there are 2 distinct requests before you after you take in any comments, and that is to formally receive and file the municipal service review, and then to adopt the draft resolution, all of which can be done through a successful motion of alternative action 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commissioners before we open the public hearing?
Yeah, go ahead, Joe, and then I got a question too.
Go, please.
I just have one. The staff report said that there were some changes from the draft, but they weren't delineated. I don't know, so I have no clue what they were. Is there any way you can ferret that information out?
Any comments on that? Keen? Keen, you're
Unmute yourself. You're muted.
Sorry about that. Sorry. So I'll let Priscilla correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the only changes we made, again, were non-substantive and were to section 6.6, which are other municipal services, where we filled out a couple of sentences here and there with respect to other services that Poway provides that we did not go into detail. Priscilla, if there's anything else, please advise.
Okay.
That was the only change that we made on there. During the draft review, it said analysis pending. And so for the final, we just went and put a brief summary in there for those municipal services that were not filled in.
6.6. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments?
Yes.
Yes, Barry?
First of all, I want a cool logo like Priscilla has right for my background. I think that's so much more interesting than my windows in the back here. So can you help me get that cool logo on my screen for the future? Anyway, the study areas, I was looking for it to see how this, the areas that are study areas might be considered in the future. Did you have any input from the city of Poway on that? Reserve area, wildlife reserve areas, or what could possibly happen with the study areas?
Commissioner Willis, are you referencing study areas for the sphere of influence?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, page, I should reference the page 443-33 of the report.
So I think we can, we could hold that question for the next item. We've bifurcated the MSR, and then the sphere will be the next item.
I beg your pardon. Okay, very good.
Okay, no other comments?
I'm sorry. Then now we're going to public comment. Sorry about that.
I will open the public hearing. Tammy, do we have anyone listed to speak to this item?
Chair, the only person that registered was Craig Ruse from the city of Poway.
Okay. Is Craig on board?
Yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions. We're supportive of the recommendation to approve both items.
Okay, so you're pleased with the whole process that went down by our staff?
Yes.
Okay, all right. No other comments then?
No.
Comments by commissioners in the public hearing?
I make a motion that we go with the recommendation alternative 1.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Salas.
Okay, thank you, Mary. All right. If there are no other comments, I'm sorry.
Chair, if we could just do a quick check-in with Erica to see if we have any live email comments before you consider the motion.
Okay, thank you, Keen. Erica, do we have any comments?
No comments received.
Great. And then I am aware that Supervisor Vargas is back with us.
Okay.
Yes, I've been listening in. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing then, and a roll call vote again, please.
Sure. Commissioner Vargas?
Vargas, yes.
Did you
Commissioner-
realize? I didn't care
Hold
for
on.
that.
I'm sorry, was there another comment out there?
Commissioner Vanderlyn?
Yes?
Commissioner Kate?
Hey, sorry, I got to vote.
Yes.
Commissioner McNamara?
Yes.
Commissioner Salas?
Yes.
Commissioner Willis?
Aye.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Desmond?
Yes.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
If there are no other comments, we'll go to item 6B, the sphere of influence update. Keen?
Thank you. So I will take this item. It's a relatively quick item at that, but if you be kind enough to start us off with our slides. So now that Commission, you have completed your municipal service review requirement, you then can now tackle another related requirement, and that is to review and update the sphere of influence for the city of Poway. And you can go to the next slide, Commission. And of course, the backstory for those who are watching us on the live stream is the sphere of influence very much is a gatekeeper towards future growth and development, right? Cities, special districts can only come to you, Commission, and seek the annexation of lands or the establishment of outside services to properties that are within their sphere of influence. So again, the idea here is that the commission, by way of state statute, is drawing a probable future boundary. And in this case, for the city of Poway. And for all the reasons that we have articulated in the agenda report, staff is recommending that you update and affirm the baseline. That is that you take the existing sphere of influence in those 2,000 unincorporated acres that are currently within the designation and adopt a resolution that we've brought to you, again, keeping the baseline. If you go now to the second slide, this means, and I apologize, the map is what it is, but I wanted just to kind of show you these two broad areas right now that your predecessors in the past added to the city of Poway sphere of influence with the expectation that it ultimately be annexed. And what we are recommending to you today is that you affirm that expectation. So Area 1 is basically the backside of the unimproved section of Iron Mountain, okay? Section 2 on the map, well, that's a rural residential area that traverses kind of the east end of Scripps Parkway as it makes its way and terminates at State Route 67, which then brings you into Ramona. By our count, there are about 140 residents in Area 2. There are no residents in Area 1. So in keeping the sphere as is, the commission is affirming that, hey, these two areas, when the time is right and Poway wants to come forward, they would have at least a shot at getting your attention for any approvals. Not to say that approvals are automatic, but these are the sole areas that the commission is contemplating as potential expansions. Commissioner Willis asked a question earlier about potential study areas.
Yes.
We didn't identify any new study areas formally that we thought we should telegraph. Although I will add, since Commissioner Willis, you've got my mind thinking about this. If you look at Area 2, and let's just focus in on the main map. Along that area of Scripps Parkway where it intersects with State Route 67, there are a number of rural residences right now that at some point, and I believe in the past, have been subject to development interest. It would make sense down the line for Lafco and Poway to discuss any modifications, any possible expansions specific to Area 2. But the reason why we are saying let's just maintain the baseline and not make any changes today goes back to Priscilla's recommendation in the MSR, and that is we would first like to see the city of Poway produce a general plan update given the current documents from 1991. That would certainly be an informing item for this commission to base any future sphere discussions and changes from. And I know Craig Reese is on the line. I think he would probably say there's no current expectation that the city is going to embark on a general plan update. Fair enough, but for Lafco purposes, I think that's the appropriate comment that we make. So all this said, this is a public hearing. We have our recommended set of actions identified as alternative 1, and I will turn this item back to the chair for the hearing itself.
Okay, thank you, Keen. Are there any other questions or comments before we open the public hearing?
Chair,
Yes.
if I could weigh in on something here.
Sorry, Holly, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, before we open the public hearing that the sphere of influence, because it is not, the proposal is that it not be changed and that it remain at the baseline, is exempt under CEQA. And that's specifically under guideline 15061B3. So I just wanted to call that out for the record.
Thank you. Christy, did you have a comment?
I do. I really just want to hear from Craig, since you did already answer the question. It sounds like they're not expecting to update the general plan, but I'm just dying to know whether or not they have a climate action plan in the works. I'm wondering if we could just get a quick update on that.
We do not.
What?
And is there a reason behind that, or is there any more you could fill us in on that?
It's something that our council has chosen not to move forward with. I think it's been discussed at a very high level, but it hasn't gone beyond that. But that's not my area of expertise, so I don't know more than that.
All right, thank you.
Ish.
Let's see. Mary, did you have your hand up a little while ago?
No, I didn't.
Okay, sorry.
So Keena, I did want to clarify. So what you're saying is that, yeah,
You have
on
a
area,
comment?
on study, on area 2, there could be some residential development requests. That's a because there are residents there.
Certainly, now under the county general plan, there could be some development, mostly 1-acre lot developments. But going forward, based on the Lafco principle of ultimately bringing, urbanizing lands into a city, it's not a study area in a formal sense, but I'm offering up as a telegraphing tool from staff's perspective. If there were to be one in the future, it would be in that part of adjacent to the existing sphere.
Thank you, Keen.
Okay, any other questions or comments before we open the public hearing? Okay, we'll officially open the public hearing then. Tammy, do we have any speakers?
Chair, just for the record, we have as well
Erica?
Craig Ruiz with the city of Poway, if any questions.
Okay. All right, Craig, do you have any more comments?
I do not know.
Okay. And Erica, do we have anybody online?
No, I don't have any live email comments.
Okay. So any other comments from the commission? If not, we'll close the public hearing. A motion would be in order.
I will make a motion that we go with alternative 1 for the to keep it at the baseline.
Okay, is there a second for that? Is that the appropriate motion, Keen? Keen, is that the appropriate?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm happy to second. Vargas.
Okay, motion and a second. Roll call vote, please, Tammy.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner McNamara,
Aye.
Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes,
Commissioner Vanderlyn,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas,
Vargas, yes.
Commissioner Desmond.
Desmond, yes.
We have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, no absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you, Tammy.
You're
Now we'll
welcome.
move to business calendar. Item 7A. Keen, do you have something for us on this?
Oh, you better believe it. And in fact, I'm going to turn this over to our Ann.
My connection cut out a little bit. Keen, did you call me up?
Yes, go ahead, Linda.
Okay, sorry about that. Great. Good morning, commissioners, and welcome to item 7A, which can be found on page 7 of 7A, or if you're looking at the agenda packet in its whole, it is page 513. This item comes as an update to the 5-year study originally approved in June 2018, which calendars our municipal service review work and related sphere of updates. For a variety of reasons, ranging from staff turnover to, unfortunately, the COVID pandemic, a mid-course correction to the study schedule is warranted to reset the priorities of the initial schedule. 2 themes underlie the proposed update and reset. A, we would like to recalendar all previously scheduled but not yet completed MSRs starting in the upcoming fiscal year 2021 to 2022. And B, we would also be adding a limited number of new and merited MSRs over the 60-month period. Examples of the new MSRs added in this update include some of the recommendations the Commission has recently approved, such as A, revisiting Lafco's 2005 macro study. This conversation was brought up in the Valley Center region MSR, and B, preparing a governance study on the Escondido region to further analyze the overlapping boundaries of the city of Escondido and Rincon del Diablo MWD. Staff has also added an MSR to take up the wholesale water districts, and notably, this includes the County Water Authority. This wraps up my short presentation. I am available for any questions, and I believe there are a few speakers that have signed up for this item. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Tammy, do we have speakers signed up?
Yes, Chair. We have Claire Collins.
Okay. Is there any other speaker besides her, or is that it?
And Tom Kennedy.
Okay, so Claire, you'll go first.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Commission. Thank you again for having me this morning. As to item 7A, as you know, state law directs Lafcos to periodically review and update spheres of influence in concert with conducting MSRs. Lafcos have limited oversight of the Water Authority and Metropolitan Water District, as stated on page 262 of the agenda. Under Lafco's legislative policy L102, Lafco reviews sphere of influence at 5-year intervals, but it is also committed to maintaining a sphere of influence for the Water Authority and for MET that is coterminous with the spheres of influence for its member agencies. And it does so by merely amending or updating the San Diego County Water Authority sphere concurrent with each amendment or update to the spheres of its member agencies. Again, the same is done with Metropolitan Water District. We're not aware of any other LAFCOs in all of Southern California that have performed MSRs on regional wholesaler MET. And also, a few of the prior MSRs that briefly include the Water Authority don't really appear to be of significant analysis or value, given that each member agency sphere amendment includes an analysis of the change. So in 2007, the MSR on all the districts, the entirety of the analysis for the Water Authority was only really one paragraph. And it really basically just stated policy L102. The 2013 MSR was slightly longer, but again, merely affirmed the existing policy. LAFCO is currently preparing an MSR on several of the North County member agencies of the Water Authority, and it has scheduled a variety of other MSRs involving other member agencies throughout the county. But given the relatively scarce amount of information that the prior MSRs provided, and given that policy L102 already provides this information, we are appearing today to ask really two questions. What would be the benefit of a standalone MSR for the Water Authority and MET? And after understanding that information, would you consider delaying a decision on whether to move forward with an MSR for the regional water wholesalers to revisit it so that we can understand sort of the basis for this proposal, which we were really only told about by staff on short notice. And I would like to thank the executive officer for giving us a heads up for it, but we're just not really clear how an MSR benefits the regional planning process for the regional wholesalers. And that concludes my comments. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Claire. Kim, before the commissioners weigh in, do you have a response to that presentation?
Well, let me first check in with Linda, and then I might have a follow-up, if that's okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Keen, and thank you, Claire, for your questions. We understand that this might be a little bit of a short notice, but from our recent studies with the water districts across the region, this does seem appropriate at this time because the County Water Authority and MET fall under LAFCO's jurisdictions. It might be the first time that a LAFCO is attempting to do an MSR. We have had a little bit of recent history in this with the resource conservation districts that we just completed within this fiscal year. They also went through a first MSR with us as well. So all I can say is that BLAF deems this appropriate. It is under our jurisdiction, and we hope to move forward with collaboration. Thank you.
Anything to add to that, Keen?
No, well said. And I think the RCD is a good comparison. You know, LAFCO has a duty to check in on special districts when the time is right. The RCD was a good example where we hadn't ever checked in on them. And I think the commission could all say that a lot of good came out of that, not on both ends. So we believe the MSR is appropriate. We're certainly facing a world of a lot of questions about water supplies. And the idea that our wholesale districts are key to that water supply, I think means that it's well within our strike zone to proceed on an independent study of the water district, or excuse me, the water authority, as well as MET. And I would offer up to all of the agencies who are subject to the study schedule. We work closely with all of them as stakeholders in developing the scope of work, and we would certainly offer that up to the Water Authority.
Okay. Any questions for Keen or Linda? The commissioners? No, hearing or seeing none?
Now, Desmond here. So I guess, Keen, what is it we're trying to accomplish with the water district? I understand how the individual districts are all, potentially are, with MSRs for them, but the water authority, I guess what I'm trying to do is make sure we're not just creating another layer of government here if it's not necessarily needed. So with today's information, are you looking for an approval to go forward with the MSR, or are you looking for just the to continue looking into the issue?
Well, so through the chair, Commissioner Desmond, the approval of the study schedule would memorialize that this commission is identifying that in this case, the Water Authority is on our to-do list for study purposes. It would still be subject to the timing of a individual annual work plan, right? So every May I come to you and I say, here are the projects we want to accomplish. And so in that process, you would be green lighting the actual distribution of our resources to do the analysis. And at that point, I would suggest we could have a discussion about scoping the study to the level that we think is appropriate.
Well, I guess, hearing from Claire today, and to me, I just feel myself a little rushed on this, and water's for fighting and suing. So I just want to maybe potentially working a little bit further along with the water district and water authority, and then coming back maybe to this body. It just seems kind of premature, and the water authority felt like, it was kind of flat-footed. They weren't flat-footed, but they just this is kind of a short surprise to them. So I'd like to see us give it more time for the Lafco to work it out with the water authority of what the scope and what the guidelines would be before us approving that as a board.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Joe and then Chris.
This is the wholesale water services for the County Water Authority and MET is scheduled on our work plan for 25-26, which is like 4 or 5 years out. How far in advance of 2025-2026 does LAFCO start working with these agencies? In fact, that's a question for all of our MSRs. How far out? In other words, this isn't something that you give them a form in January and you expect it to go to a public hearing in December of the same year. So what's the lead time? And I think that might answer then Commissioner Desmond's question too.
So through the chair, Commissioner McKenzie, the lead time for all the agencies is no less than a year. For some who are scheduled in 25 and 26, they're getting a 4 to 5 year lead time. So for all the agencies that are scheduled in the upcoming fiscal year, we've already given them advance notice, a year or even in some cases 2 years ago that we are going to do this study, and we get the ducks in line in terms of making sure that they are aware of when they are going to be in contact with Lafco.
Don't we have a form? Doesn't Lafco have a form that they send out to the agencies and with questions to be answered?
Correct.
So the water authority could have that template or that form tomorrow. So they would have 4 years to work with Lafco theoretically.
They could. I may forget to collect it if it's that far in advance, but yes.
Put it in your neat filing system.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, Chris?
Mr. Chair, that's our next public speaker go before I go.
Okay, do we have a public
I think
speaker?
we have another public speaker, I believe.
We do? Who's that, Tammy? Or
Tom Kennedy, but
Tom, are you on this item or on 7B?
7A, Mr. Chairman.
7A also? Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Tom, I'm sorry.
Linda and Keen kind of echoed what I was going to comment on related to the resource conservation districts. But when it comes to these sorts of MSRs, and I don't think anybody should be worried too much about them going too fast. Sometimes some of us complain they go too slowly. And so it's a very thoughtful and considerate process that takes time. And so if anyone at the Water Authority is concerned, and I know my friend Claire is representing them here, they shouldn't have too much concern that this is going to be a rushed process. I think the North County MSR that is currently hopefully come to conclusion was actually scheduled to be concluded last year or prior to that. It's just things happen and things get in the way. And the Water Authority, is an important feature within our area, and MSRs are a great way. I look at an opportunity for my agency to highlight, how good we're doing. And so I think that they can look at it as an opportunity to demonstrate what they do for the community and how they're awesome, and look at it that way. It'll be a fun time. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for queuing up Tom for me, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I will say, with all due respect to my colleague, Mr. Desmond, I think the opportune time for staff to work with any of the agencies who are about to go through this process is following approval of our 5-year plan. And Linda and Keen and others Commissioner McKenzie have commented on the scope and the wherewithal with staff to work with whomever is the subject of the review. And in the last 3 or 4 months in which we've had meetings, I think that's been the perfect example of that, whether it's the city of Poway, whether it's the RCDs or others. By no means is staff on a mission of hell or high water to move these through. They've all been collaborative in nature. They've all been working with the individual agency. And I don't believe that staff is going to go in a different direction for 1 or 2 or a handful of those that are within the purview of this 5-year study period. So hopefully that's not is what's left from this meeting, is that staff is on some type of crusade, which I don't think is the case. They are very collaborative nature, and when the time comes to develop a scope with whomever that is, I have all the trust in the world that staff will be professional and be collaborative in that nature. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would move staff recommendation on this item.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion and a second. Claire, did you have a comment? I'm sorry, Joe?
No, I was just going to say Claire has a comment.
Okay, got it. Claire?
I just had a question. So our question, and let me be clear, the issue of the timing was not about when this was scheduled, because as you appropriately point out that this is scheduled for somewhere about 5 years in the future. It's the timing of when this was placed before the commission with really very little notice to us, and a bit of a surprise. And so and also because it seems to contradict the policy of legislative policy L102. So I just wanted to ask whether or not this was a really an effort by Lafco to re-examine that policy, or if it expects this to be consistent with that, because again, we just didn't see the utility given that the policy was to expand and contract the sphere of the wholesalers based on their members. And we just don't see what the relative benefit of a study is when that policy is already in place. And this is an honest question because we just don't see where the value is, but we'd be happy to obviously discuss more.
Okay, thank you, Claire. Keen, do you have a response to this?
I do. So the recommendation for the commission to proceed with a study schedule that includes the Water Authority does not contrast with policy of the commission that Ms. Collins makes reference to. In fact, it parallels and illuminates the policy. The commission is responsible for preparing service reviews, independent check-ins on the sustainability of Agency X. Policy 102 speaks to the Water Authority and its role with its member agencies in coordinating those reviews. We look at the water agency and the water agency members. What staff is doing with this proposed update is completing just about all of the member agencies' MSRs, and then going to look at the Water Authority for the principal task of updating its sphere of influence. And respectfully, the Water Authority and Lafco do not have de minimis relationships. There is a conducting authority issue, but separate from that, the Water Authority is a special district, just like Rincon, just like Vista Irrigation District. And the idea here, as we tried, perhaps not well enough in our agenda report, is to highlight water supplies are a big deal. And right now we are preparing studies on member agencies where we just simply reference the water supply comes from the Water Authority. And we really don't go into any further detail because the member agencies tell us, go talk to the Water Authority. So there's the crux of the harmonizing that we're attempting to do. And I think a number of commissioners' comments, Commissioner Kate, we are certainly going to be looking to work with Ms. Collins and the entire Water Authority on an appropriate scope of work. And again, the commission will have a veto when we bring this on a work plan. If you just decide that we have other priorities at the time, and it's happened quite a bit. Ask our friends over in Encinitas. We will punt Ray Guy style down to another year. So that's my follow-up.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Keen, would you restate the staff recommendation, please?
So the staff recommendation, which I heard Commissioner Kate and Commissioner Vargas motion and second, is to proceed with alternative action 1 in your agenda report, which is to approve the proposed update to the 5-year study schedule as presented in the agenda report.
Okay. And if I read this right, that process will begin this year or next. Is that right? 2021 or 20?
Correct. July 1st of the new fiscal year, we start anew.
Okay, great. All right. There is a motion and a second. Is that correct? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
No further questions, then a roll call vote, please.
Yes, Chair. Commissioner Desmond,
No.
Commissioner Willis,
Aye.
Commissioner Salas,
Yes.
Commissioner McNamara,
Yes.
Commissioner Kate,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Vanderlin,
Yes.
Commissioner Vargas.
Vargas, yes.
So we have 7 in favor, 1 opposed with 0 absent. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you. So Keen, you'll handle any other further communications with Ms. Collins?
Yes, we will follow up with the Water Authority and all of the 70 or so agencies, right, that are on this 5-year study schedule, and give them an advance copy of the study schedule. And we'll go from there in terms of working out the scope of analysis for all the studies. So thank you, Commission. And thank you, Claire.
Okay, looks like you have your work cut out for you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. If there's nothing else on that item, we'll go to 7B, which is a new item that was added, and that's, can you handle that, Keen? I guess that's going to take it.
Yes, so I'm going to turn this item 7B over to our fire service consultant, Ed Sprague.
Good morning, Commission. Thank you for hosting me. Ed Sprague with Lafco. If you can bring up the slide presentation, I have just a brief slide presentation. Thanks, All right, go on to the next beautiful big fire there. Big slide. May 3rd, 2021 meeting with the Commission asked us to look into this a little bit. And whenever you're talking money, just like water, it's one of those things that's quite contentious. So what precipitated this conversation with Commissioner Willis brought to the attention of the Commission that the San Diego County Fire Protection District, recently formed in fall of this last year, received a basic allocation of 6% of the 1% of the property taxes from the County of San Diego. Now, keep in mind that that's not the entire funding mechanism for the San Diego County Fire Authority. I would assume that the bulk of the funding is coming out of the general fund. But this was an essential little allocation of property tax. And we were asked as staff to kind of take a look at it across the entire county, fire protection districts within the county, to see what kind of the story is. If you can move on to the next. So give you just a background real quick. For those of us that have been around on the planet a little bit longer, we remember Proposition 13 and with the Howard Jarvis and Gann initiative. And what was precipitating this or having this issue move forward was, as the person would purchase a house and maybe the tax roll had them at, 1.5%, 2%, 2.5% property tax of assessed valuation. The big problem there was not only that the tax rate could go up quite quickly without a whole lot of oversight as the local government and regional government's needs increase and state government needs increase for funding. The second part of that was the assessed valuation of the house was reassessed essentially every year by the assessor's office based upon prevailing cost or the home value. So people that would buy their house 10, 20, 30 years before on fixed incomes were being priced out of their homes just on the property tax alone, and ultimately would lose their homes. So there was a lot of emphasis behind this. And in 1978, they basically rolled it back to 1975, locked it at the 1%, and moved forward. And you can move forward and increase the amount of tax by about 2% of the base value per year based upon inflation. On to the next one. So just taking a quick look. So now our County of San Diego, essentially right around 1% of the property tax, 1% of the property's assessed valuation is paid in property tax every year. We get that. And of that, where does it go? And this is the essential breakdown of where it goes. About 45% of the 1% goes towards schools, and you can read the rest there. The library gets a little bit. The County of San Diego gets a couple of chunks, a 13.2% and a 7.9%, which is basically a transfer of what they would have received from vehicle license fees. This is they call it the triple flip. And then there's redevelopment funding over there. As you know, redevelopment districts have been made up and down the state, and they were dissolved a few years ago, but they still have liabilities associated with them. And so there's some funds there to pay off the liabilities over a period of time, then they'll go away. And then overall aggregate about 3.3% of the overall 1% is received by special districts or one form or another, everything from mosquito abatement district to water district to fire protection district. You can see cities get their share. And then there's also a cities in lieu of vehicle license fee, part of that triple flip. Next question, or next slide, please. So to give you an overview of what's going on in our area, the amount of property tax varies based upon when the district was formed. So for those districts, which is the bulk of them, the majority of the districts in the County of San Diego that were formed, fire protection districts in the San Diego County area that were formed prior to 1978, what you were able to do as you move forward is you were able to maintain your overall percentage of the property tax allocation. For instance, I'll just give you just an easy math example. If the property taxes paid in your community were essentially 2%, let's say 2% of the assessed valuation, and then so 2%, and you were receiving 20% as a fire protection district of that 2%. You were doing quite well. Everything was going well, I guess. Then Proposition 13 came along, and they took the 2% property taxes, took it down to 1%. What you were able to do is still maintain your 20%, but the pie went from 2% down to 1%. So you lost 50% of your revenue, even though you were at 20% of the overall property tax increment. So that's essentially where it started. That's why it varies. Some districts in the communities that supported them were at different rates, and they varied throughout the county of San Diego. Some were very, very low, some were very, very high. And for that reason, there's a tremendous amount of variation. Do the next slide. So this gives you an overview. This is a list of fire protection districts within the county of San Diego. And what you have going from left to right, and I apologize, I don't mean to, you probably figured this out just by yourself and just going across here, of course, the district assessed valuation. So this is the total assessed valuation of all the properties within that district. Then if all those districts assessed valuation, of course, anything that's nonprofit or other things would not be, or maybe not paying tax, property tax if they're exempt. But those that are paying tax, 1% of that revenue, 1% of the overall assessed valuation, then you look at the district revenue. So this is what this fire protection district is receiving. And then we divide one by the other, and it comes up with the overall percentage of the 1%. So you could see that we have from a low of 1.95 with the Deer Springs Fire Protection District, and all the way up to a high of 32 at the lower Sweetwater. So it varies tremendously, but you could see one of the common elements there is the ones that are really low, the ones to 1.95 and 2% are post-1978 districts, So post Proposition 13. And then of course, some of the special districts are not independent fire departments. They're providing their fire protection EMS services via contract with an adjacent agency like National City Fire Protection, not National City Fire Department, San Marcos Fire Department, Vista Fire Department. Many of those others are providing services to an adjacent fire protection district of the same name. Next slide, please. So where do we have a role in here? Obviously, as a local agency formation commission, if you're going to formulate a special district from the get-go, we're going to be in there and ask where your revenue source is that you could sustain your services going forward. But what happens more commonly nowadays is not so much that we're forming districts from the get-go, is that we're expanding existing districts. And what happens there is as they expand and annex land within their sphere of influence or increase their sphere of influence and then annex secondary to that, they sit down with the county of San Diego and they look for an increment or property tax associated with the expansion of fire protection EMS services into an area that was previously served by the county of San Diego, either up to recently it was CAL FIRE contract to the County Fire Authority. Now it's San Diego County Fire Protection District. Next slide, please. So what ends up happening is the Fire Protection District leadership sits down with the County Planning and Development Services and negotiates and says that we need a certain tax increment. And Lafco doesn't participate in these negotiations. They want to oversee the fact that, yes, they were done and that both parties have agreed. And as long as there's agreement, there's no benchmark necessarily. And then, there's a recent review of tax exchanges shows that the county typically transfers, any kind of existing increment that's in there for fire protection going forward. Oftentimes this runs right around that 5 to 7% range when you're negotiating with the county and as your special district going forward. Next question. I know that was a very brief overview of it. I'm open and available for any type of questions that you may have, and I will defer to you. as well.
Thank you, Ed. And so, Chair, as Ed mentioned, this is information. This is staff following up on your inquiry. We are here to answer questions. Well, really, Ed is. And if there needs to be some follow-up, we can do that as well. I will turn this item back to you, Chair, with the acknowledgement. I think we do have some public speakers.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any commissioner speakers first? Any questions?
Yes, I just want to make a comment. Ed, thank you for your research on this. Ed, could you go back to the chart again that you had on the screen?
Yeah, I'll have to ask you to go back.
Bring that back up.
There you go.
Thank you. To me, when you look at that chart, it is just, and when you put the figures in red for Deer Springs, San Marcos, and Valley Center, it's just unbelievably striking. And you can see that how it makes you wonder. I mean, how do they continue to survive considering the vast difference in the percentages with the other districts? So my concern is that there is a severe inequity here. And when we approved the County of San Diego Fire District, it made a lot of sense, but we weren't privy to, funding issues in terms of a 6% of 1%. So Ed, my question to you is, what are your thoughts on these other districts being able to function properly when it's not even at a baseline of 6% of 1%?
Well, obviously, I put it in the red to be able to see where they break below that 6% level. From my prior experience working in a special district, we always had the feeling that the proper funding level going forward was actually much greater than the 6%. It was greater, 13, 14, 15% would be something so that you could provide full service EMS, and you could see the majority of the agencies are doing just that. Keep in mind that property tax is one form of revenue. Obviously, you have ambulance transport fees, you have some fire prevention fees, and you have some other fees associated with development like mitigation fees that are coming in. But in the case of these other agencies, like the San Diego County Fire Protection District, you're being funded out of the general fund. And unfortunately, it's a timing issue. The County of San Diego is also constricted. They only get a certain percentage, the 1%, and giving away to fire protection is going to come out of the general fund and come out of something else they're doing: parks and recreation, roads, infrastructure, social programs, et cetera. They're responsible for. So it's a very difficult situation moving forward. And most districts end up spending or going back to the residents and asking for some other funding mechanism, like a CSD or even going as far as like a Melrose, doing different types of funding mechanisms to make up the difference.
Well, as you say, the negotiations have to be between the county and as you said, each fire district. So we can't really make a decision today. But my hope is that this will be seriously considered that the County of San Diego will revisit this out of the county to look at the general fund to get them adequate, those other fire districts adequate funding level, that would be revisited. That was my hope, and that we could get that on the calendar to discuss, that as a statement that Lafco would encourage the County Board of Supervisors to do that. That was my concern.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Barry. Are there any other questions or comments before we get to the speakers? Yes, Joe.
Take both hands down here. If I can figure out how to take the other hand down. Okay. Clarification in my mind, Ed, you said that with an annexation, the fire district can consult with the county for, I don't know, an additional percentage, or that the annexed land will then have be basically assessed the same percentage that the existing land within that fire district is presently getting? I'm
From,
kind of confused on this, and mainly because when you go back to our other agenda item on 5C, and this is the first time I've seen this, because I think it came up was probably with several questions I had of Keen, is that on 5C, it says the application of this master tax exchange agreement will result in no transfer of property taxes to the Rancho Santa Fe CSD. So whatever property taxes that piece of property is getting, all of that will go to or stay in the county, and that CSD won't receive any of that proportion of property tax. Is that the same thing theoretically with fire districts?
If I could jump in through the chair, Commissioner
Thank you.
McKenzie. So it's a different game with respect to property tax between utility enterprise districts and fire protection districts. So there's existing master property tax exchanges specific to all water and wastewater providers in the county. Fire protection districts, there's no master agreement. Because the thought is there is going to be some exchange, but it's up to the county and those districts to negotiate it. So it is different.
as North County Fire Protection District started to taking on the properties around the 76 and the 15 corridor there, as you go kind of hike the Montserrat Hill and that kind of area, and there's some development, Horse Creek Ranch and that kind of Star Road. Those were areas served previously by the County of San Diego prior to the, San Diego County Fire Authority. And there was no designated tax increment going to the San Diego County Fire Authority, property tax increment at that point. So as we went into annex that land, we sat down with Development Services and said, we're more than willing to provide service, and we can. We're right across the freeway at Station 4. We could be there in a timely fashion, provide good service to the community as it grows. That was necessary for the growth. There's no way that they can build that level of homes in there without that level of service that we could provide. But there was no benchmark of property tax that we would bring over. There's no increment to bring over it. We had to negotiate that with the county, and we ended up with something right around, I think, 6% or so with the county of San Diego. Now we knew that 6% wasn't enough in our view to sustain our level of service that we were doing with ALS engines and ALS ambulances and internal provision of transport and everything that we were doing. And so we went back to the developer, and the developer actually made up the difference to where we were looking at a benchmark about 13%. Going forward, as there may be annexations with local fire protection districts going into the San Diego County Fire Authority or San Diego County Fire Protection District's land, now there's a baseline 6% that's laying out there. So negotiations might be a little bit more straightforward given that, but it's always a negotiation.
I do have a follow-up question, Ed.
Sure.
Well, let's suppose that the county does reconsider this and renegotiates a percentage for these three districts to get them to 6%. Do you have a ballpark figure how much more money that would cost the county?
No, sir. I'd have to do, some top of the paper calculations, but you could just generally take, Valley Center, which is what, about just shy of it's $590,000 at 2% and basically triple it. So you're looking at about 1.5 million at 6%. I mean, off the top of my head, 1.5, 1.6 million at 6%. So
if you were looking at all three districts, could it be in the ballpark range of 4 to 5 million, maybe 5 million, somewhere in there?
I would have to look at the numbers more. I hate to go on record quoting a number off the top of my head.
No. I was just trying to get an idea. I'm not going to hold you to it.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get an idea of what kind of level of funding from the general fund would need to come to, because in my mind, wildfires are the biggest threat we face as a county, by far. And these districts need to be able to respond properly also, in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Ed. Ed, I want to compliment you on your report. This is a very difficult and complex process. I lived through this during Prop 13 and afterwards. It was a very dark day for the fire service and EMS after Prop 13 passed, because the state got involved in, of course, the negotiations. And you look at the chart there, you see who got the most out of all this. It was the school districts. The fire districts were pitted against each other, and the school district was the biggest dog in the room. So they got, as you said, a large amount of that allocation. So one, to go back through would be a difficult process. Two is that agencies have adapted, like all agencies do. Fire may be on the top of that list because that's what we do every day, adapt. So anyway, and when you look at it in the red, you see how it all panned out. That was a mild version of what it would look like if you were there in the actual negotiation. So as fire chiefs, we had to become negotiators, not only with other districts, but also with the county supervisors. The county supervisors at that point had just canceled the CDF contract, which was in place then for the unserved areas. And so it was a big bunch of chaos, and it was amazing that the fire chiefs made it through, and as well as the board of directors. It was really a tough deal. So Ed, thank you for bringing that all together in a very succinct manner. Appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Ed. Thank you, Ed.
If there's no other commissioner comments, we'll go to the public speakers. Tammy?
Yes, Chair. I have Tony Meacham and Herman Reddick.
Okay. Tony, go ahead.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm joined in my office with Herman and Reddick. So we wanted to take a minute and clarify, because I think there's some misinformation that has been provided. And frankly, this whole thing was brought up in relation to the County Fire Protection District receiving a property tax exchange. And nobody has ever sat down with Herman and I to discuss why that occurred in the background. So I have three very quick points to make for the commission. The first is that the property tax that goes to the county, the 21.1%, or the 12.6% that goes to the city, is 100% discretionary revenue of those agencies. And the county board of supervisors makes the decision on how they allocate their money that they collect, whether they give it to their fire department, parks, roads, sheriff, or any other items. Second point is that through the 17 different agencies that consolidate into the fire protection district, as we went through each of those individual actions, we took the existing property tax that existed. Most of those departments were post-Prop 13 departments. The CSAs came in at 1%. The remainder of the areas, and most of the areas, we brought into the fire district at 0%. So this is what led to the heart of the problem. It wasn't that the county fire protection district wasn't adequately funded, is that we were almost 98 to 99% general purpose revenue funded. And this is the reason that we did the property tax. And I need to be very clear on this point. We did not receive an extra dollar of funding from the county as part of this action. When the county gave us 6%, they correspondingly took the amount of general purpose revenue back. So there was no net increase to the fire district. The reason that we asked for a higher property tax and less general purpose is that general purpose revenue falls to fund balance every year, meaning that if we have not committed that money by the end of the fiscal year, it goes back to the big county. So we were not able to carry over funds for large capital purchases, such as replacement of apparatus. So that was just the discussion with the CAO's office is, hey, we will give you more of our property tax increment so that the fire district can carry funds year over year for larger capital purchases, but we are correspondingly reducing your net amount of funding by general purpose revenue. So this notion that we've created an inequity by the county funding their own fire department at a higher rate than other districts isn't necessarily the correct assumption. And so with that, Herman and I will certainly remain on the line if there's further questions from us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Herman, did you have any comments right now?
I'll just be here available for any questions, but Chief Meacham summed it up completely.
Okay, and Herman has been around for the whole duration there. He's gone through a lot of it, so he has a lot of background information as well. Okay, so where does that leave us, Commission? Where do you want to go on this?
Well, Chair, can we check in with Erica to see if we have any email comments on this?
Yes, thank you. Erica, what do we have?
So I received 2 email comments, but they are both from David Drake. He is the Vice President of Innovation for Smart Cover Systems. And the first comment that I received, I believe, was for 7A. And he states, there is certainly an interest in the quality of decision-making at the SDCWA concerning stranded assets, litigation, and financial impacts. This is best addressed in a formal MSR of the SDCWA. So that ends that comment, which we will post online after the meeting. And then I received a question from him for item 7B. And it says, both Ramona and Rincon del Diablo are fire districts. Should the record of 7B recognize this? So that might be a question for Ed. And that ends my two comments that will both be posted online after the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Ed, do you have a comment on our question?
Yes, Commissioner. I did follow up with Ramona Municipal Water District, which runs fire protection as a latent power activation with contract to CAL FIRE. So they're really not a standalone fire protection district. I reached out to Rincon del Diablo Municipal Water District, and I noticed on their website, I have reached out to them via email, trying to get clarification of their funding mechanism. They did not come up in the county rolls as an independent or dependent special district, fire protection district that receives property tax increment. So my thought is it's probably an internal transfer as a latent power activation. But I reached out to their admin, sent a couple of emails, and I have not been able to receive any clarification on that back.
Okay. Anything else for Ed then on this? Okay, do we have any other speakers or anyone else who wants to speak on this issue? Okay, so what action was it you're looking for on this, King?
Well, ideally, affirmation, and if we've satisfied the inquiry, I think we can proceed with no action. If, however, there is some interest from the commission to proceed with some kind of additional follow-up or direction for us to come back with some kind of action item, well, then we can take that as well. I would offer up from my perspective that I think the commission has met its own inquiry, which is just to understand how the property tax exchange process works for fire districts, and that really the tax exchange issue is something for the County Board of Supervisors to take up. If should the commission want to advocate one way or the other, that's its limited role. It would be an advocation to the County Board of Supervisors, and I don't know if we're necessarily primed to go down that route. But that's where that's the only really option I could see us going further down this particular path.
Well, I would like to advocate for that. And if somehow we as a commission can take a vote on that to take a stand to advocate for the county to reassess and to revisit that, that's what I'd like to do, to have that on the agenda somehow for a vote.
Okay. Is there future direction for the commission then? Commissioners, where are you on this? Any energy here?
Well, I'm actually not okay with moving forward. I think we've provided enough information, and I think if you heard from Tony and other folks, there was clear explanations of where this happened. I mean, fine, we can take a motion on this, but I think that if we're going to start looking at Prop 13, we have to go beyond just the county, right? And we have to look at all fire districts and a lot of other information. So I think the information we received was enough, but you know, it's the pleasure of the commission if they want to make a motion. I won't be supporting it.
Okay, thank you, Nora. Anything else? Just one thought on this thing is that since that era, 1968 and years following, the county has become much more engaged and involved in EMS and fire protection district in the county, much more cooperative in terms of the amount of money. I forget what the current allocation is to fire and EMS, but it's very significant by the supervisors. And so it's kind of like that horse has been ridden a lot, and I think should be put away for a while. There's a lot of stuff on our plate right now. And I think, Ed, that your explanation was well thought out and well put together. And we do have, unfortunately, 2 districts that appear to be disadvantaged, if you will. But if you go back in the history, there is a rhyme and reason for each one of those actions that have been taken. So from my perspective, I would agree with Nora that I think we've done our due diligence in taking a look at it. If it's to be brought forward at a future date, then that would require commission direction to do that.
I see Jim's got his hand up, but Keen, I wanted to ask you, am I allowed to make a motion that we put this on the agenda for vote next time?
Could we have additional discussion first?
Yes.
In answer to your question,
Thank you, Barry.
you can promote a motion. Let's let Joe and Jim speak. Joe?
I have a question, I guess, of Ed. Regarding the consultation with the Board of Supervisors, well, with planning that then goes to the Board of Supervisors for an up or down vote. Can these fire districts consult with the county staff to up their percentage? Or is it just when there is annexations involved?
My understanding is it's only when annexations are involved.
Okay.
When there's changes in your district service territory.
Okay, but if the supervisors took it upon themselves to go back and look at the percentage that the various districts are receiving, they have that ability, I'm assuming. And I think that's kind of what I heard Commissioner indicate, that the county would be looking at this issue. Maybe. I couldn't hear Nora because it kept cutting out on me.
Could you give us clarification here, Keen?
Yeah, I heard Ed's okay, but I didn't catch what Nora was saying.
Well, I don't want to speak for Commissioner Vargas, but I took the commissioner's comment to suggest that should the county choose to look into it, the county will, but there's no plans on that right now. And perhaps, again, I've seen Commissioner Desmond's hand earlier. Maybe he could speak to that. But this is ultimately a Board of Supervisors decision.
And that's why I don't think this needs to come back to the commission. We don't have any basically influence in trying to assume influence over the the Board of Supervisors. I don't think that's an appropriate approach for Lafco. And as our chair said, we've got our plate full just doing what we are obligated to do.
And Jim, before you speak, I want to publicly thank the county for all the efforts that you put into fire and EMS over the years. It's much better. We have a very cohesive county where we've been splintered for a long time. So thank you with that, and go ahead and speak.
Well, thank you, Andy, and thanks for your comments on this. If there's a vote today to bring this forward to the Board of Supervisors, I don't think we personally, we can't participate in that vote. And if you do bring it back as an item, the supervisors shouldn't even be allowed in the discussion on it, because technically, if you're going to recommend something to the Board of Supervisors, I can't participate in that vote because I would like to vote on it as a supervisor. So I think it'd be kind of a conflict for, this is an informational item today. Let's leave it as an informational item. And if this committee wants to bring it back later, fine, but I won't be participating in that discussion at all. So appreciate the comments.
Thank you for your candor, Jim. Any other comments then from the commissioners? Okay, did you still want to make your motion, Barry?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we do consider, that we do take a stand, and that we do ask the Board of Supervisors to revisit the negotiations for districts that are severely affected by funding, that it is at a level that's the three districts primarily that we were discussing. I'd like to ask that we take a stand that the county supervisors will reconsider.
Okay, is there a second?
If I can If I could, pardon me, Chair.
I was gonna ask you to come in, Holly, please.
Pardon me, since this was on the agenda as a discussion item only, we're really not in a position to take action on it. At the most that could be done is some general direction to staff to bring it back on a future agenda item as an action item. So then the public receives the notice that there would be action actually taken. Here, this was just for a discussion purposes. So that's the extent, is there can be some direction to staff to bring it back on a future agenda.
Okay, then, so no motion at this point.
Correct.
Well, I would like to make a motion that we bring it back as an action item then. Where we could take a stand.
Okay, is there a second for that? I know, Chris, you want to speak, so is there a second for that motion?
No, I don't think we're allowed to take any action on this, whether it's with the motion that's been forwarded by Commissioner Willis or not. This is information only. If staff wants to bring an item back, they can, but I don't feel comfortable voting on an item that's been agendized as informational only.
Okay, thank you. So that would put this at the end of this discussion, unless there's anything else, Keen, on this.
No, I think as Commissioner Kay said, this is basically a note and file information item. And I don't see anyone jumping up and down agreeing that this is a task that the Lafco staff should take on and basically get involved with. We have 2 Board of Supervisors here that basically said that if this comes back, they will not be able to vote. That means any kind of voting would need a 5 vote to approve. I cannot see even directing staff to come back with this information because it's not in our purview. We have, we've already told 2 Board of Supervisors that this is something that they may want to take up. If the 2 decide that this is something that the entire Board of Supervisors should take up for discussion and possible action, then I will leave it up to them to, move forward. And if they don't, then that is back to the Board of Supervisors. It's not a Lafco.
Okay. All right, so nothing else on this then. Barry, thank you for your concern.
Thank you for the time.
Okay. All right. So that finishes this item. Is that correct, Keen?
It does, and thank you, Ed, for the work on this.
My pleasure.
Okay, now we do have one other item on the agenda, and that's the reopening, potential reopening plan.
Yes.
And discussion, Keen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this is really kind of staff communicating our administrative plan at a reopening, but then it's also an opportunity to get some feedback on the commission's temperature about returning to in-person meetings. So let me start with just my part, right? So the Lafco office has been physically closed to the general public since March 20th of 2020. We've started to bring back staff on a rotation basis in the office starting in January, and we're starting to rev up. And so my plan and what I've communicated to staff is on June 15th, so a week from tomorrow, be ready to be back in the office unless you've got an authorized telework privilege, which is only 50%. So Lafco staff is getting ready to be back in the office together on a regular basis starting Tuesday. We're working with Holly in trying to make sense of the OSHA requirements. And I know Holly is ready to speak on that if there's some questions. I'm still kind of unclear about what we do. I think I'll just be wearing a mask until someone tells me otherwise. But nevertheless, the question is, right, so that's my component of just giving you a heads up. Now let's pivot towards our next Lafco meeting, which is set for August, I believe, 3rd. And so the question is, subject to the social distancing requirements that may be in place, is the commission interested in returning to in-person meetings in room 302 at the County Administration Building starting in August? This really is a question that has no clear authority other than I know you're the commission. And so you tell me, are you collectively good with starting to meet in person starting in August? So it's an open-ended comment, but these are open-ended times, Chair. So all feedback is welcome.
Okay. What do you think, commissioners?
I'm raising my hand. I want to come back in person.
Okay.
That's my vote.
All right. Jim?
I'm being selfish. I'm going to be on vacation in August, so I'm going to say let's still do it by Zoom in August. I might be able to make it and then start in September. But that's for selfish reasons, I'll admit.
Well, September, we're dark anyway.
Okay.
So then October.
Any other?
Yeah.
Any other?
I would, yeah, this is Mary. So, so I would agree with the October as well. It'll give me time to adjust and see if I can fit into my business suits again.
That's a very candid comment.
I know. I'm going to hate like dressing up
Let me
again.
write this down. Business suit argument. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm open either way. I'm in the office. Anyway,
Okay, thank you, Nora. Any other comments?
No, I'm open either way. I think Cal OSHA will have it figured out by August, so that might work. Maybe we take another vote with an email that goes out because it's my understanding that if everyone has been vaccinated, it kind of negates the 6-foot rule and having to wear the mask.
well, yeah. To your point, Commissioner, also it depends on when Governor Newsom lifts the emergency ban, because when he does, you can no longer do the Brown Act. So right now we are able to meet online because of the emergency, but as soon as he lifts that, we might have to go sooner.
Well, my understanding is he's going to lift one executive order, which is the 6-foot distancing and opening, but the Brown Act will stay in place.
That is the current word from the governor's office, is that while some executive orders may be lifted on June 15th, he has forecast that he will leave in the remote meeting option for the Brown Act past June 15th, and will give advance notice. You know, I know a whole bunch of agencies did ask for at least 30 days notice of when he was going to lift that again, so we can all go on our crash diets so we can fit into our business suits.
Okay.
But, we could all wear sweats. What the hey?
So the other piece, and the reason why we talked about Cal OSHA is, you know, if we are having Lafco staff who normally does go to the public meetings, and it would be mandatory for them to go if we have them in person, then they may have to, we may have to follow Cal OSHA regulations for staff, which right now allows you not to wear a mask if everyone in the room is vaccinated. So I don't believe we're going to be requiring proof of vaccination for folks to attend the public meetings. So, you know, there's just a lot of moving pieces there.
I want to jump in here, and I think I think we should go to October. Most of the other boards are setting September as a target date, and if we're dark during September, then I would say we should push it to October. And I would confirm that the executive order, we just had a conference with the representatives from the governor's office here, and they said that he's not going to lift the Brown Act option, so that we'll still be able to wait that time.
Okay. Any other comments then? And Holly, thank you for being there to guide us through the rough spots. Appreciate that.
I liked Keen's pun by saying he wanted to take the temperature on with the commissioners on that issue.
Thank you for catching that, Commissioner.
So it appears we have a consensus.
It sounds like there is general consensus, which makes sense, that we stay the course, and then staff will work with Commission Council in being OSHA right for our October meeting as the plan to return to in-person meetings.
Okay. Anything else on this then?
So we're targeting October. Keen, I'm sorry.
Yes, we're targeting October because we have a scheduled dark day in September.
Okay.
So we have 4 months to get ready.
All right.
And that means Commissioner Desmond may be able to join us because we will be Zooming in the meeting for August 3rd.
All right. So do we have any closed session items today?
Wait a minute, are we going,
We got commissioner
reports, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner report.
They're paying
Excuse me.
people at Tacos El Gordo to get them there, $20 an hour.
I'm sorry, what was that? I missed that.
Well, you lost us on that one, Mary. Or whoever said that.
That's Nora.
I did. It's amazing, the competition for workers.
Oh, right.
Well, on that topic, on workers, this is the executive officer report. I can bleed into, we are going to bring in a couple of college interns, which that too is actually kind of a competitive field. So hopefully by the time of August, we'll have some backfill while we do our staffing updates, but we'll get some help on some of the service reviews. And then I did want to share with the commission and through the help of the ad hoc committee, which included Vice Chair Desmond, Commissioner Cade, and Commissioner Vanderlyn, we were successful to your direction in negotiating a office lease at 2550 Fifth Avenue. And so shortly after our August meeting, staff will be transitioning the Lafco office, which includes just our computers, some of our computers and our office plants over to our new suite. And then perhaps when the day gets even more normal, we'll actually have an open house, but that's probably way down the future. But I did want to report back on that successful news. And that's all for executive officers.
So will we as commissioners be required to show up with our work clothes and help with the move?
Just you, Commissioner Willis, and I appreciate the offer already. Again,
Okay.
you know, the unique thing about Lafco is we've been pretty light for the last 60 years. We don't actually own any furniture. So our moving will be files and again, some plant holders, but we're looking forward to it. So again, thank you to the commission for the green light.
Okay. Anything else from you, Keen?
Yeah, so Keen, have you figured out just what the dollars are going to be to furnish the offices?
I have a ballpark idea, and it might come back to you in the form of a budget amendment at your next meeting. So I could, you'll have an opportunity to see the actual number then.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else from you, Keen?
No,
Okay.
thank you though.
Commissioner announcements?
Yes, I'd like a couple things.
Okay, Barry, go ahead.
Okay. Another funding issue. And I know that I've been hearing that Supervisor Desmond has been working with the fire districts on the issue of the American Rescue Plan Act. And so thank you, Jim. As I'm out there, I'm hearing from everybody that the special districts are being neglected and on the funding on this issue. So I would like, this is another funding issue that I'd like to bring up as a topic on a future meeting, that we take a stand, that we, urge the state that they not neglect the special districts. And as I said, Jim, I guess Jim's already been working with the fire districts to a certain extent on this. So thank you, Jim. But that is a topic I would like to the commission to consider at the next at the next meeting. I guess it's going
to be
August.
Yeah. Jim, did you have any comment on that?
Well, no, I did submit dollars. I forgot the exact amount that would go from the ARPA fund to the fire districts and be distributed to them. So that is, well, hopefully that will be voted on tomorrow at the Board of Supervisors. And I'm just kind of leery of I guess, Barry, with what you're asking in the fact that districts are autonomous entities of their own. They have elected officials. They want to be their own special districts. and they want to stay that way. But now when you want to start bringing funds in from other areas other than their district, it complicates things a bit. So there's merit to being autonomous and being your own district, but then you have to be responsible for your own funding. Then to have other entities fund those dollars from the outside without having a vote then on how those dollars are expended or funded makes things a little bit more, makes it messier, for lack of another term. So we have to kind of respect there's independent districts and they want to stay that way. And then if we start meddling with them with outside dollars without influence, is to me a difficult hurdle.
Well, I guess, Jim, the issue I'm bringing up is the COVID-19, how all these districts have been affected by COVID-19. The water districts.
Okay, that's separate. Okay, that's separate. Well, that's the ARPA funds. That's for tomorrow.
Right. Well, that's what I wanted
Okay, I
to.
thought we were talking further beyond the ARPA funds.
No, I wasn't. No, just the ARPA
okay.
funds. I wanted us to take a stand on Lafco that, hey, let's to the state. Let's not neglect our special districts on those funds. There's billions and billions and billions of it's 242 pages of billions of dollars on that thing. It's scary. Anyway, just that they're not neglected. That we put it on the agenda. We take a stand that they not, as in this commission, that the special districts are not neglected.
Has your district sent such a letter?
There, I have seen a letter from several. Oh, you mean my special district? That's one of the things that Jim has been talking to one of my fire districts is involved with that. Yes,
well,
but there is also a letter that has gone out to the state to address this issue, and it's signed by several elected officials. I can get a copy of that.
But your district has sent out such a letter also to the state, right?
They've been involved with the negotiate. Yes, they have addressed the issue with the other districts. Yes, they're combined.
Yes, Joe.
Just a general comment on this issue. I think every association in the state that represents any section of special districts has written and has lobbied both Congress and the state for an allocation. And the bill at federal level, it was amended such that there is flexibility of the state to be able to provide money to special districts. Prior to that amendment, it was just strictly money going to states, counties, and cities. And I know the California Special District Association is still lobbying to get special districts also included and to be recognized by the federal government and your senators and your congressmen as an entity. A special district is government. It's a piece of government. And even in our state legislation, special districts seem to be left out. The mindset is counties and cities. And the mindset isn't, also we've got a governmental agency that's called independent special districts. So the state does have the flexibility to send money to special districts. So, and whether they do or not, that's another story.
Okay, thank you.
I just want
I'm sorry.
I just want to put in there, yeah. What I put forward to the Board of Supervisors, and all the supervisors put in many good programs, but unfortunately we don't have enough money to cover them all. But it was $5 million for independent fire districts, as what I submitted, for independent fire districts who did not receive state or federal dollars for COVID-19 costs. So that's going to be decided tomorrow. And it was actually part of staff's recommendation, so it's got a pretty good chance.
Thank you, Jim. Keep us posted on that, please.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone then?
I do have one other issue.
That's
Sorry,
okay,
I'm not trying to hog the time, but So Christy Becker, did I say your last name right, Christy? Okay. She did bring up the, so in the recommendation for the city of Poway, I know we already voted on this, but I'm wondering if we can revisit that we do recommend it, that in their general plan, they do consider a climate change issue, because that could enable them to prepare for a water shortages, drought, fires. That could all be part of, if they, is there a way that we can revisit this and change the wording so that we do recommend?
I understand that climate change is now an element that has to be addressed in general plans.
Okay.
Holly, is that correct?
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
My turn.
Yes, Joe?
My turn. I attended, just real quick, since we're running kind of late. I did attend the May 7th meeting of the Lafco. Hang on. Sorry. Of the, sorry about that. Of the Lafco committee, and two bills I just want to touch on. There was a number of them that we went through, but one of them is by our senator, is from Lorena Gonzalez, and it has to do with I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Everybody wants you, Joe.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so back to it. It's SB 403, and it has to do with the State Water Board. God bless it. Okay, has to do with the State Board being authorized to consolidate water districts that are at risk, and it's at risk water systems. That was changed just from systems at risk of failing, and it has to do with probably the smaller districts, but it has to do with the system that's provided by water support of its contention that it is not at risk. So the bill would authorize consolidation of an at-risk system that has historically been failing, in that it has the pollution and industrial development faced with other hurdles. But what the issue is that this legislation is giving authority to the water board to consolidate these districts, that are at risk. And Lafco is not mentioned in there at any place. And I just looked it up to see if it had been amended, and it has been amended since we had this, but only was the change of the at-risk or failing water systems. And they've only changed it to the comment of water systems. So Lafco is opposed to that bill unless it's amended to add Lafco into the mix. That's our basic issue. The other was had to do with probably the other one would impact us, would it be AB 339? I've reported on this before. That's the one that would require translations of all your documents into languages that have 5% or more population, and it would require employees, translators, to be available to do the translations in the public hearings. So those are the two. And then a quick update on the protest provision rewrite working group that's working on that section of the CKH, is that the consultants, both for the Senate and the Assembly, are basically overworked, and they're not going to be able to take that up at this point in time. So bottom line is nothing's going to be happening until after the legislative session. And they're basically overworked when each of the legislators is allowed 12 bills. They have to review every bill and write up a synopsis on those bills. So, and then with the shortened timeline, they just bottom line said they couldn't do it. So we're looking at picking up this group and moving forward next year. Next meeting of Cal Lafco is the 18th of June. The other meeting that I attended, which was very brief, was the awards committee for Cal Lafco, and Keen has that information. Basically, it's looking at those who excel either as a commissioner, an executive officer, projects, etc. So if anybody has any thoughts, they can contact Keen and have a discussion on that. And those are the only two meetings that I attended. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for staying on top of that. Any other commissioner comments then? Announcements? No? All right, so back again to my question a few minutes ago. Do we have a closed session items today? No? Okay.
No closed session.
All right, and thank you all for your perseverance and tenacity. Meeting went kind of long, a lot of discussion. I think good. Some of the things are going to be new. We're going to have to go back and certainly enlighten our new folks that are on board. And thank you all for your comments and for hanging in there. Christy, welcome to your first meeting. Hopefully they'll be a little shorter in the future, but we'll do what we need to do. So anything else then for any of us?
Or they could be longer.
Well, they could be. And they may be when we get, before we get through with this year and the things that are on board. So hang on, we've had them that have gone several hours and not just, I guess.
Joe, is Cal Lafco having their annual conference this year? Or is it still going to stay virtual?
I don't know. We have a board meeting coming up. It may go, it may be virtual, or it may be in person.
Okay. All right. So no meeting next month. Next meeting is August the 2nd. So until then, be safe. Have a wonderful 4th of July, celebrating freedom in our country. Holly, thanks for being on. Once again, Christy, welcome aboard. Anything else?
Let me just say one thing. You guys have said August 3rd, and then now you just said August 2nd. So
I'm
it
sorry,
seems like it would be August 2nd because that's a
It's
Monday.
August 2nd.
August
Okay.
2nd. I probably stated it wrong. Okay. Hate to let go of all your smiling faces, but I'll look forward to them in August. Okay.
Thank
Nothing
you.
else will come before us. God bless you all.
Thank
Bye.
you, Andy.
Welcome. Bye.